sir. 5:30.
Get one of these things and get after it. We have a quorum. Mr. Connell is on the way. He'll be here in a very few minutes. He's caught in traffic. It's a great day in Kershaw County. It's a great day in this all-American county. There's dirt being turned over and jobs are being created by new business. We've had our veterans just honored this past week in the schools and throughout this wonderful county. And we have an agenda tonight that's filled with new opportunities and jobs and philo, and I think we ought to get on with the business that we have at hand. Before we do, I just want to mention we have the cold weather coming on, and we have a number of people who are less fortunate than some of us, and as Jesus said, we should take care of the least, the last, the lame, and the lost in this cold weather, as we do so well in this county and in this city, and every member in this room here has pulled together to help his fellow man and woman. And I ask you to consider that as we go into this rough winter weather that's about to hit tonight. With that, I would ask you to rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. And I remind you what the good book says about blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And in this Veterans Day, I ask you to pray with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you for our veterans and all those who serve this county and this nation selflessly and courageously, as do our first responders and our armed forces. While there is confusion in the national capital, there is no confusion in this town and in this county. We are firm in our belief in you and firm in our thanks for the devotion and dedication of those who serve us and even those who give their lives on behalf of our liberty and freedoms. All this we recognize in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, we move into public comments, and I ask Mr. DeBose to steer us through that, please.
Six people have signed up, Mr. Chairman. The limit is 30, so if you take 6, everybody will get their time. So the first person that signed up is Chip Galloway.
Well, as Mr. Galloway comes forward, I remind you this is a chance for comments from the public. There will be no exchange of question and answers. This is a time for the council here to hear your opinions and take note of them. I ask you to remain in the decorum of this body so that we may conduct business efficiently and without any to and fro. I would also ask you, for those who are new to this body, is up here we can't hear if there's a lot of chatter behind you, but sometimes in among the audience are disrupted by that chatter and noise. So I'd ask you to keep it quiet while you're in the audience so that everyone may hear and proceedings may advance expeditiously. Mr. Galloway, go right ahead, sir. Good to see you.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the council. My name is Chip Galloway. I'm the chairman of the Kershaw County Committee of 100. Seated behind me are members of my board, and I'm going to ask them to come up, Amy Kynard and Melissa Emmons. At this time, I would like to have them come forward. The Committee of 100 is a nonprofit organization that supports Kershaw County's efforts to recruit and expand industry locally. We are here today to celebrate the recruitment efforts of our economic development team and to formally announce the arrival of a new company coming to Kershaw County. This project has been confidential for several years. As the county team worked under the radar to recruit and build a trusting relationship with this company, today it has paid off. And we would like to publicly thank your Economic Development Office for the diligence and hard work. On behalf of the Kershaw County Committee of 100, our community, we would like to welcome Ernest Health to Kershaw County. Ernest Health is currently establishing a new rehabilitation hospital in the county's Wateree Executive Park in Elgin. The $17.56 million investment will create 114 jobs with an average wage of $25.61 an hour, which is above the county's average hourly wage. Chairman Burns, with your permission, may we present a gift for Ernest Health this time?
Oh, it's a little out of the order.
To commemorate this occasion, the Committee of 100 would like to formally welcome you to Kershaw County and present this plaque to you to honor and celebrate Ernest Health's investment in the wonderful Kershaw County.
Excellent. Thank you.
And if it would be okay, Chairman, I would like to have an opportunity for.
I know Mr. Gardner never turns that down. Come on up, let's get a group photo, please. Come on
If
forward.
there's any more Committee of 100 members, y'all would like to come forward, we would love to have you.
All right, let's just
Be in the front.
let's group up here, please.
Okay, everybody good? Oh, more coming. Okay. All right. All right, 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank y'all.
Thank you very much, Chip. And Committee 100, we couldn't do it without you.
I'd like to make a few comments and speak as a boat owner about some issues we have with the Patriot Landing boat ramp and what our expectations as motorboat owners are or would be for the new.
Bring the mic up to your voice. There you go. Thank you.
Okay. What our expectations would be for the new Wateree River Park. I've personally been launching boats at the Patriot Landing. It wasn't always called that I know I have friends. I've got one back there he doesn't want me to tell you how old he is, but he's been launching boats back there probably for 50 years or more. And we never had any issues launching boats back there until the pier was placed downstream from the boat ramp. And we understand why the pier was placed there. At the time the pier was placed there, the county did not have enough property on the upstream side of the ramp to locate the pier there, which is typically where a pier would be placed in a river waterway situation. So we're not, criticizing that. The pier was placed where it had to be placed at that time. I brought some photos here tonight, and I hope each of you have copies of those. The photos provided show two examples of the problems that a small craft owner faces trying to launch a boat at that ramp right now. It can be hazardous, and I've damaged my trailer and my boat in the past couple of years launching down there. I no longer even try to launch my boat at that ramp by myself anymore. I'm semi-retired now, and I've got a lot more time that I could be spending on that river, and it's pretty frustrating to me that, you know, I can't launch my boat down there by myself anymore. Both of the examples in those photos actually occurred with two experienced boat operators trying to launch one boat. And it was myself, and I've got a good friend of mine, Billy Prather, in the back here. He and I were launching a boat down there, and after, you know, the trailers swept against that pier and pinned there by the current, it's extremely difficult and dangerous to try to dislodge that boat. If you look at the photo, you'll see one photo in there with a piece of PVC pipe coming out the rear of it. And this boat launch occurred in the wintertime, and we actually had to wade out onto the frame of that trailer and attach a line to the trailer so Billy could take his boat and pull his trailer out from underneath the pier. So those are just two examples, and I've spoken with a number of people that have pretty much had the same issue down there when they're trying to launch your boat, especially, you know, by themselves, but it doesn't really matter, you know, just one little slip, even if you've got two experienced guys down there trying to get their boat in the water. It's something, and I'm surprised somebody hasn't been hurt down there, you know, at this point. But we'd heard that a steering committee might be formed to collect input on the proposed uses for the new park, and I'm not sure, we're not sure if that happened or not. If it did, I'm not aware of it. We only learned yesterday that the county currently has no plans to accommodate the motorboating segment of our community at the new park. And we find that very unfair and hope we can convince you to reconsider. The following figures, Mr. Arledge, the Kershaw County Auditor, and these are approximate numbers, but we have like 5,800 to 6,000 registered boat owners in this county paying property taxes that average $145 per watercraft. And if you do the math on that, that's well in excess of $750,000 in revenue that's generating. The kayak and canoe owners, unless they're motorized, don't pay any property taxes. And I'd also like to note that the kayaks and canoes don't have any problems or safety issues launching their craft at the Patriot Landing boat ramp. We plan to return next council meeting. It was kind of a short notice for us, but we'll have more support next time, and we'd like to provide more input and some ideas, hopefully, to you folks, and see if we can't convince you to re-examine your plans and provide some accommodations for the motorboating community in our county at that new Wateree River Park. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Mr. DeBose.
The third person signed up is Susan Witkowski from the, talking about Vision 2030.
Good evening. I'm happy to be here this evening on behalf of the core team Vision 2030, and what I'd like to do is just give you a quick update of what this team has been doing as they've been zigzagging across the county this last month and a half, going ahead and telling our citizens the opportunity that they have to be able to participate and engage in the survey that was created. It is our fourth survey that we've done, and it's an opportunity for our citizens to have their voice be heard of how Vision 2030 is doing. And a lot of the team and staff have been busy going to churches, organizations, evening meetings, schools, and I know it's a concern that not everyone has connectivity and able to reach a link that is in a computer, so paper is available, but we have made some opportunities with the library and down at the community medical clinic to provide a link for those coming to our site. and going out to Bethune with our community health workers to give them an opportunity to fill out the link. So an update for you is we are a little bit ahead of last year with about 380 so folks that have filled out. It takes about 14 minutes. So I want to ask you if you can encourage your constituents to take 14 minutes of their time or so to fill out this link. If you have any questions, please contact myself or Paula Scarborough, who's here this evening, and I think Michael Conley is right over here as well, Julian Burns, and we have palm cards, maybe somewhere out in the audience. It might be on your chair, a few of them. Yes, those, and y'all are prepared. That's great. So that's all I have. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope you have a good evening.
Great work on the survey. Thank you. Mr. DeBose.
The fourth person that signed up is David Fuller.
Mr. Fuller.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, council members, for letting me come and speak tonight. I understand tonight that we're going to be voting later on the name for the park. American Legion Post 17 submitted a letter to the council in July 2018. A couple months ago, I attended a council meeting and submitted to Mrs. Siegler copies of the same letter, and she handed out copies to each council member, and I'm sure you received those and hopefully had a chance to read them. That letter requested that the property that was purchased just northwest of U.S. Highway 1 and the Bobby Jones Bridge and tentatively named Watery River Park could be named Watery River Veterans Park. And tonight we hope that you will still honor that request by voting yes to name the park Watery River Veterans Park. We owe it to our veterans. In this county alone, there are over 6,000 veterans. There's a lot of military history that took place along the banks of the Watery River. I think this past week and yesterday, the citizens of this great nation realized how much our veterans are honored and loved. We owe it to all our veterans in our county to have a veterans park they can be proud of. With an American flag flying high, a state flag, and with all the service flags representing all of our services, and a POWMI flag with a big monument and several other monuments added in the future. We have mentioned moving the 505th monument down to this location. If we get to do that, that would be fine. If not, we can have monuments erected to represent the great history and battles that were fought along the river, such as the skirmish at Carey's Fort the day before the Battle of Camden took place. Also, monuments that preserve the memories of the maneuvers of 1941 and also the parachute drop that the 505th monument represents. Military men that served and fought for our state and country. So again, on behalf of the American Legion, Post 17, I ask you to vote in favor for naming the park Watery River Veterans Park. And again, I want to thank you for letting me come and speak. Thank you.
Thank you much indeed. Thank you, David. Mr. DeBose.
The next person that signed up is Tom Webb III.
Mr. Webb.
First, I want to salute my fellow veterans up there and the ones back there, brothers and sisters of a sort. And like brothers and sisters, we don't always agree on things, but we'll still be brothers and sisters. Something quick I wanted to read. I don't want this hat on now. Something that Comptroller Richard Ekstrom put out about a year ago. It's very pertinent then, very pertinent now, always will be. Quick little excerpt from it. One sure way to improve people's quality of life is to let them keep more of their money. Now, that's coming from somebody in government. Respect those who ask the tough questions. Just about every public body has one, the citizen watchdog. That's coming from somebody in government. And although they may be annoying to the politicians, their role is a vital one. These are warriors laboring to improve their government. And then the last little thing that I wanted to point out, citizens who care enough to become involved in the process deserve our respect. Yes, even those who ask the tough questions. I'm not going to be asking any questions, I don't think, but I do have three things I wanted to kind of talk about. And one thing is the title-only procedure that you use here occasionally. It shortcuts the way to an ordinance when the public doesn't know what is coming forward. You get three chances to prepare for contending with the issue at the end in a public hearing, but it's shortcutted by having title only. There's nothing in it. It makes no sense, in my humble opinion, to have a title only. If you're going to do that, you need to put in somewhere in there another chance for the public to know what's going on and to be able to respond. And that's something that's called transparency. And, next thing is about the military model versus the civilian model. For those who have served in the military, we know that everything the military does is highly planned. You have orders, oversight, rules, not much freedom. The military is kind of like a machine. It has to work. And so what its purpose is, of course, is to look out for the civilian model back here in this land we call the land of the free America. But it looks to me like the civilian model is more and more kind of giving away to something like the military model, where we have so many rules and regulations, ordinances, always another one, that we are tending to kind of blend to where we're not quite the civilian model that we used to be, the America that our parents would have known. It's slipping away from us. And if you don't believe that something like that is happening, just look at what's running for political office at the national level. People who are outspoken in favor of socialism. So we have a slipping and a sliding that's going on, where people who want socialism, they want stuff that's free, something else that's free, but they don't care anything about the freedom of the people. We'll get free stuff that the government says we can have, and we can do things that government says we can do, and things that we can't do that government says we can't do. But one thing we won't get is free people. Government model versus the civilian model. The last thing, and this is where some of my brothers and sisters might disagree with me, is the water park, Veterans Park. I don't want it to be named that. I'm in post 17. I didn't hear any discussion among the rank and file about what are we going to do about calling this the Veterans Water Park. And the only reason that I'm against it is because there are questions that I've asked that are still not answered. And that's, where did the money come from that bought it? Where did the money go? Whose pockets did it go into? How is it determined that that property was worth $11,000 an acre and it has almost no commercial value? It looks like that's 10 times what it should have brought. So until that is resolved, it's a beautiful place, and I think it would be a great park, the Veterans Park. But answer those questions first. Or if this was happening in another county or in another state, we would look at it and say, looks like corruption, doesn't it? Somebody is pulling the wool over somebody's eyes. There's money being moved, and there's no good explanation of how that happens, except perhaps in the dark, and then what happens in the dark. So I like the beautiful place, but I don't like the ugly possibilities that veterans' name will be associated with something that hasn't been explained very well yet. So please forgive me if I've stepped on any toes. I've done my duty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Mr. DeBose.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the sign-up list.
And that concludes public comments. We move now to adoption of agenda. Gentlemen, it'll be up on the screen and in your...
I thought it said 6.
Do we have another?
I think Chip Galloway, Al Holland, Susan Wachowski, David Fuller, Tom Webb, and Jeff Maddox.
Okay, Mr. Maddox has not been called up. Mr. Maddox.
Mr. Maddox, I'm sorry. Excuse me, I apologize.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. Jeff Maddox.
That's okay, Ken. I'm sorry, man. That's okay, babe.
Got to hit him with that.
Him or the puppy?
Gentlemen, me and my friend Porkchop are here to give you a little bit of history on economic development. Hi, my name is Porkchop. The history of economic development here in Kershaw County begins somewhere around 2010, 2011. Now, Porkchop, why would we want to know the history of economic development? Because those who don't study history are doomed to repeat their mistakes. That's right, Porkchop. And so why would we want to do that?
Well, because we don't want to repeat the same mistakes you know what I mean?
Well, Pork Chop, our history in Kershaw County of economic development is one of failure after failure. For the last 9 years, this county spent over $7 million, in excess of $7 million on economic development with very little to show for it.
We don't have nothing to show for it?
No, Pork Chop, not hardly a thing. Over that same time of economic development, we've also spent nearly $1.4 million on a real estate team to market it.
What? A real estate team to market it? Don't you have no real estate agent?
No, we don't have a real estate agent. We hire people who are supposed to market it, and we give them funds to market it. We pay them salaries.
And they don't sell no buildings?
No, they haven't sold a building. Right now, we got a $3.1 million building on 601 that we're asking $2.6 million for, and yet we're paying $220,000 a year to an economic development team, and they haven't sold anything.
What? I cannot believe this. Why didn't we hire Greg Nettles? He's very good at selling economic development and property.
Well, I don't know. This is the way government runs. Pork Chop, it doesn't run like private sector. They hire bureaucrats to market these things, and they don't really have to do anything. They just have to show up, and who knows what they do.
Well, that doesn't sound right. A real estate agent gets paid when he sells the property and the property closes, and he gets a little bit.
Well, that's not how it works in government, Pork Chop. In government, it works like this. We hire 4 people. We pay them $225,000. The county taxes and fees everybody, and then we pay for it, and they build empty shells and hope somebody comes to get them.
That sounds a little crazy.
Yeah, I know it does sound a little bit crazy. How are they supposed to know who, what, how, what kind of industry needs a building? How are they supposed?
That doesn't sound right. How come we don't know that kind of thing?
Well, see, most people don't pay attention to what the county council is doing. Over the last 11 years, $1.4 million in salaries, $3.8 million in county, $40,000 a month in debt. What else are we going to do?
Well, that don't seem right. Maybe they ought to stop doing these things and look at the history of economic development and see it's a disaster. It's a Pork Chop. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Maddox. Mr. DeBose. Okay, your math is improved. With that, we move to the adoption of the agenda. Can we have a motion on the agenda?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. A second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Gardner. Can you get it up on the screen? Oh, there it is. With that, any discussion on the agenda?
A couple of things, Mr.
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
If I could, please. On the agenda tonight, I noticed that we have 4 public presentations. I think our rules of order say we're only supposed to have, certainly want to hear from these folks, and I want to leave them on, but I think we need to either change the rule or follow the rule in the future, since we do try to follow the rules of order for this county council. But certainly I want to leave these folks on and hear from them tonight, but we just need to, and I think, Mr. Tucker, you may be addressing some of that later on with some of the issues you're bringing forth.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Tucker.
Yes, sir, Mr. Jones. That's in our package tonight to address some of these agenda items on presentation and also some other rules within our package underneath tab M.
Very good. Other discussion? With that, we move to a vote. All those in favor of the agenda as published signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. We move forward with the agenda. We move now to a series of proclamations. And the first one is a proclamation honoring Dr. Thomas Joseph Sr. at tab A. I will read it, and then we'll move through our motion process. Proclamation honoring Dr. Thomas Joseph. whereas Kershaw County recognizes Dr. Joseph, one of its own, as a successful pediatrician, as a devoted public servant of his community. And whereas Dr. Joseph began his pediatric practice here in Kershaw County in January of 1967, after graduating from Georgetown University, the Medical University of South Carolina, and the Medical College of Virginia. He is a fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics, a member of the South Carolina Medical Association, and a member of the Southern Medical Association. And whereas Dr. Joseph married his wife Sharon in 1969, they have 2 children. Dr. Thomas Joseph Jr. is a practicing orthopedic surgeon in Camden and has 2 children. And their daughter, Lori Joseph Butehorn, resides in Spartanburg with her husband and 2 children. And whereas Dr. Joseph has delivered innumerable babies in Kershaw County and has provided excellent medical care in a family-centered environment, he is dedicated to providing each family with quality care by ensuring that each patient receives individual, personal attention. Dr. Tommy has become a hallmark for caring and compassion among countless families throughout this county. And now, therefore, the County Council recognizes Dr. Joseph. With that, can we have a motion? I look to Mr. Jones.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
A second?
Second.
From Mr. Gardner, and discussion. Mr. Jones, will you lead us?
If I can. You know, this is a good night. Dr. Tommy Joseph has been around for quite a while, and I won't talk about how, there you go, I see you now. You know, we used to do this thing going on when we played racquetball out of town, and go somewhere and someone would holler, hey, no. But Ben Connell said, dang it. But anyway, Tommy, we're very proud of you in this county. You've been there for our children. You've been there for some of these folks in here. And I'll never forget the time that I walked in his office and, you know, you always heard babies screaming and crying. And I said, how do you put up with it? He said, money. But I'm going to tell one more thing on it too, because this is really funny. I take some of my children in there when they were young, and they were not happy being in the doctor's office. Well, let me tell you something. He had some kind of jiu-jitsu arm bar. He'd put them down in it, and he had no problem whatsoever. Tommy Joseph, I love you, brother. You've been a good friend. You've been a good doctor to this community. As I said, you've worked with our children. And I'll tell you something right now. We've been very fortunate to have you here, and I'm very honored to be a part of this tonight. Friend, congratulations. Yeah, let me real quickly. I'm a black belt, sir.
Yeah.
Listen, I scream. Now, let me tell you, we were playing racquetball one night, and he and I were in the championship, the final round. So we were playing, all of a sudden, and this was for the championship. He hits me in the eye with his racket, and blood starts gushing out. He said, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me look at it. He said, you're fine. We can continue on. I said, okay. And I'm feeling dizzy, and I'm feeling woozy, and anyway, he beat me, okay? He said, oh, that's a bad cut. Let's go. I'm going to sew you up right now. I can't believe you finished the game with it. Anyway, he took me there, and he said I was the worst patient yet. But anyway, I tell you what, though, Tommy, thank you so much for reminding me of that. That was a nightmare. But thank you, Mr. Chair. And
Yeah, good stories. Mr. Connell, I'll just work around.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Jones, I was so pleased to see this on the agenda tonight. Dr. Joseph slept numerous Connell babies for their first scream of life and actually kept me alive until I finished up high school. I can't speak for my health after that, but you did a great job. Thank you so much for taking care of kids in the community.
You were one of them, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Slap him now, doctor.
Mr. Gardner?
I'd just like to say that Dr. Joseph took care of my kids, and we appreciate the service. And, you know, he was never too busy to do it. And if he was on call after hours, he would leave medicine on his doorstep for us to come pick up. And that's just, you know, who can beat that? I mean, that's just shows how compassionate that he is taking care of kids. And congratulations.
Others? Mr. Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Joseph, you took care of my two knuckleheads and my one prince.
Get you right here.
I can't say thank you enough, not just for my kids, but my nieces and nephews that you've kept in check and kept good health on. And the thing that I've always appreciated about you, no matter what the clock may say, and it may be time to go home or not, you never rushed anybody out your office. You always tended to them. I never second-guessed any recommendations or things that you told us to do about our children. And that's hard to find sometimes, where you're not comfortable with the pediatrician or the doctor or physician that you're dealing with. But we trusted you, we love you, we appreciate it, and I hope God will keep you with good health so you can service many more as long as the wife will let you. Thank you. Congratulations.
Other comments?
Mr. Chair, if you would,
Jimmy, please.
Sharon, we have not forgotten about you. Thank you for putting up with all of us, with him, over the years. You've always been very gracious. Thank you.
With that, I am ready to move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and it is so proclaimed and resolved.
Bring him down for a picture.
Dr. Joseph and Sharon, can you come forward and we'll get a quick picture? Thank you very much, Dr. Tommy. And we move now to the next item, which is another proclamation, item number 2, recognizing the Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week that we spoke about early in our opening prayer. It's at tab B, and I'll read it and then take a motion. A proclamation proclaiming November 16th through the 23rd as National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week, whereas the purpose of the proclamation is to educate the public and to encourage our citizens to recognize that many individuals and families in Kershaw County do not have permanent housing and food security and need support from our fellow citizens and churches and private and public and nonprofit and profit service entities. Whereas there are many organizations committed to sheltering, providing supportive services, as well as meals and supplemental food, there still exist major barriers to stability, such as affordable housing, public transportation to jobs and health care. Whereas the Kershaw County Council recognizes that hunger and homelessness have a negative impact on the physical and mental health of many children and adults in our county and encourages everyone to help as they are able. Now, therefore, be it resolved. With that, let's take a motion, and I'll give the honor to Mr. Snodgrass, sir.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
A second?
Second.
For Mr. Tucker, and we'll open discussion. Reverend Snodgrass, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just wanted to make sure that we highlighted this important week in our community and highlight the many community partners that we have, whether it be United Way or CCM or Hunger or Food for the Soul. Many and churches all around our community that go above and beyond to take care of those, take care of the least of these. So a lot of things happening this week. Saturday, November 16th, will be a food drive at the Piggly Wiggly and the Camden IGA. There's a prayer breakfast Monday, November 18th at Bethlehem Missionary Baptist Church. Wednesday, November 20th, we'll have there'll be community ride prayer happening in all of our churches during their Bible study times. And then Thursday, what's really interesting, will be
a Lunch and Learn Poverty 101 at Hermitage Baptist Church. And that's going to be a really neat, just a really neat session for us to see what poverty is from that perspective. It's easy for us to say what people should do when we're in a certain set of shoes, but when you look at it from someone else's set of shoes, it can look differently. So all kind of things that are happening. And then, of course, Friday, November 22nd will be a luncheon and also a food drive there at the Food for the Soul. And so a lot of neat things happening there on the campus of the Holston Center. So thank you all so much for your support for this proclamation.
Can you go through those dates again, David? You went through them very quickly.
Send it to you?
Yeah, would you do that? And also maybe to the media, make sure it's
Yeah, I'll
highlighted.
send it to them.
Yeah, let's do that, and maybe through Danny. Thank you. Other comments? I can hardly improve on that. Thank you, David. Other comments? Seeing there is none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand, and it's unanimous. Thank you very much for sponsoring that.
And also we have Marie Shehorn and Father Bill, correct?
Father Bill, would you
So
stand
let's come up and get a picture and do all the thing that we do with these proclamations.
Okay, good gosh. All right, if you can come forward and get them forward, David. Would you call their names? Thank you very much, David. Well done. We would move now to a series of public hearings. Item number 1 on the public hearings, as you see on the agenda, is in regards to an ordinance authorizing a code of laws as amended the execution and delivery of a FELO or ad valorem taxes by and between Kershaw County and Hire GE U.S. Appliance Solutions. And with that, I open the hearing. Seeing no one comes forward on this, I will close that hearing and move to the second public hearing, a public hearing in regards to an ordinance authorizing pursuant to Chapter 44 of the Code of Laws of South Carolina, delivery of a fee in lieu ad valorem tax agreement between Kershaw County and WellChem as sponsor. And with that, I open the public hearing. Seeing no one comes forward, with that, I will close the public hearing and we'll move ahead to the next item in the agenda. The next item is a series of public presentations. The first one is Shaheen Hancock and Godwin, an audit presentation by Mr. Mark Wood. Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, tonight Mr. Wood will be presenting the results of the audit. As you know, every year the county is required to do an audit of all of its finances. We have engaged the services of Shaheen Hancock and Godwin, and Mr. Wood will be presenting those results.
Mr. Carpenter, is this Mr. Wood?
This is Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Mr. Chairman, members of the council, it's a pleasure to be with y'all tonight. I've got a one-page summary. We're just going to run through that. I think that'll be easy. I know y'all got a full agenda, so I'll make this kind of quick.
And Danny, can you make sure the media has a copy as well later on? Okay, thank you.
Before I get started, I just want to say this is the earliest we've ever presented this audit report to you guys. So that's a testament to the hard work of the staff. And I want to thank personally Sandra, your finance director, and her team, Pam, Sarah, and everybody that works with this. Sandra actually wrote a lot of this audit report that you have in front of you tonight. She did a lot of the schedules. And so it was a tremendous help to us. And that's why we're able to get this report out to you as soon as we did. So I want to thank them. Council should know y'all got a good finance team. You got some good continuity, stable staff, and that's a big help, more than y'all know when our team comes in and does what we need to do. So I just wanted to let y'all know how thankful we are for that. So let's get started. The county received an unmodified opinion again this year, which is the highest opinion we can give on a set of financial statements. So that's always a congratulations for that. 1 and 2 of this outline are pretty self-explanatory. I just try to give you a rundown of what your audit report is how it's broken up and the different types of funds. There's no questions on that. We'll just go ahead and skip down to item number 3. 3, 4, and 5, I'm going to kind of run through the general fund first, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about the proprietary funds. If you want to look at the details, liabilities and deferred inflows were 15.8, which left a fund balance of $10.2 million. Now your fund balance, you can see on 4 how that's broken out between non-spendable, restricted, committed, and then unassigned, which is about $6.3 million. That gives you about 3 to 4 months of reserves is what that computes back to for the general fund.
That's about the.
I mean, the rule of thumb is anywhere between 3 to 6 months. So you're 3 to 4. So you're fine. And actually, there's about $2.5 million that are committed for budget reserves that you did for this coming year. Council can always uncommit that. So if you uncommitted that, puts you about 4 to 5 months. So you're fine as far as your reserves go. Number 5, this comes from page 18. You can see the total breakdown between the different revenues and the different expenditures by departments. The total revenues were $24.6 million. Your expenditures were $24.3, which left you about $315,000 of revenues over expenses. Then you had transfers and other financing sources of about $3 million, so your negative change in fund balance for the general fund was $2.7 million. We'll go to proprietary funds, and for number 3, this information comes from page 20 of your report. Total assets and deferred inflows, $27.6 million. Total liabilities and deferred inflows are $10.5. That gives you net position of a little over $17 million. You can see that's broken up between your investment and capital assets of about $14.7, restricted of $700,000, and your unrestricted net position for your EMS and sewer funds is combined almost $1.7 million. Your total revenues for the proprietary funds is shown on page 21, and you can see it's broken out between EMS and sewer. Total revenues were $8.7 million. Your operating expenditures were $6.7. Other is basically your interest on your bonds of about $148,000. So your excess revenues over expenses were $1.8 million. You had some transfers that came into those funds, so your positive change in net position as of 6/30/19 was $3.2 million. Number 7 talks about the budget. This is just for the general fund. So your revenues exceeded budget by about $800,000. Your expenditures were actually under budget by about $300,000. And then we were over as far as some of the transfers go, and a lot of those transfers had to do with some capital. Actually, your unassigned fund balance, if you compare from 6/30/18 to 6/30/19, actually increased because you spent some of the money that was committed for capital projects. Just a few other things to point out. Your pension liability for this year that has to be recorded, which is on page 14 of your report, $34 million. That's an increase of about $118,000 from 6/30/18. And your OPEB, your post-employee benefit, actually increased about $33,000 to almost $6.3 million. And that, again, is on page 14 of your report. Once again, I'm happy to report that the no findings in the audit report. So that's just shows that the hard work of the staff, and they ought to be congratulated for that. So with that, I'll open it up. Any questions that any council members might have?
Questions, council? I think you can, yeah, David?
So, Mr. Wood, am I reading this correctly? So then Kershaw County, we actually spent less than we were budgeted to spend. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And we took in more than, so, I mean, I think, I know that was obvious, but I think it's important for us to show the fiscal conservative that we handle our business with as a county. I think it's public needs to make sure we highlight that. Thank you. Good stewards.
Mr. Wood.
Yeah, Jimmy, go ahead.
When we talk about handling the budget each year, pretty much, there's been very few years throughout the history that Kershaw County ever spent more than they had.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I don't think I've known of any time that we've done that. Thank you. That's pretty common.
That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes, just wanted to tell you, Mr. Wood, thank you for you and the firm for always being there, able to work with us. And I want to say kudos and thanks to Miss Sandra Brown as well for coming in here when we had all this in leisure books and pencils and erasers and, I mean, just rat's nest, what it was. And the staff and Mr. Carpenter and everybody and you guys rallying around and just getting us where we can be more efficient and proficient and have great audits and be able to keep up with our spending and our revenues. So thanks to you guys, and thank you, Ms. Brown and staff.
Thank you.
Other comments? I think, as you always advise me, we should read the notes and this very small, tiny print, and I will spend my train ride tonight reading that. And then if you are available, I'd like to come by and go through it in detail.
Sure. I'm always available to any members of council.
With no findings and unmodified report, that means a well-run, fiscally responsible county government. I congratulate you, Vic, and I congratulate Sandra and her team. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll move to the next item. That was significant and profound. We move to the next item, which is item number 2, our great Sheriff Lee Bone and the Sheriff's new patch and signaling devices. Come on up, Lee.
How's my favorite county council at all of Kershaw doing tonight?
How's our favorite sheriff in Kershaw County doing?
Yeah, from your favorite current serving sheriff in Kershaw County. You'll see here on the board, this is one of our first trucks we've got in, striped up as of this morning. Pretty proud of it. We've got a few more coming. We're issuing them out to our lieutenants on each shift, as well as some canine officers. This one here belongs to Lieutenant Bubba Morris. If any of you know him, I got a call from a citizen a little earlier today when they first saw it out on the road, because he's been driving it around everywhere, and said she had 2 questions. One was, do we have trucks? I said, yes, we do have trucks. 2 was, how do you teach a set of teeth how to drive a truck? That's all she could see was Bubba's teeth, because he was happy to get this truck. Now, this is not why we bought the trucks. This is something we went over with council before, and throughout the whole budget process. The advantages of having these pickup trucks, they're actually, we can get anywhere we need to go. We got about 300 miles of dirt roads, driveways throughout the county in which our cars could not make it to. We were getting cars that were bottoming out. We were losing oil pans. We were having to pay record bills to pull them. We needed a way to get to places in the county that we couldn't get to in cars. This is our answer. Now, we don't plan on getting a complete fleet of these, but like I said, our canine officers and our lieutenants got them first. We'll probably be looking at more of the to mid-size SUVs in the future, but we did want to get some of the trucks out to, for one, help pull out some of the cars when we do get them stuck. It's a little video here. We didn't know whether it was going to show up or not, but like I said, we're real proud of it. Second thing we wanted to do was some of our new patches. I think we've passed them around to everybody up here. We wanted a patch to be worn on our sleeves that, did not represent us, me as the sheriff or anybody at the sheriff's office. We wanted something to represent Kershaw County. King Hagler, 1791, those are symbols of Kershaw County. Kershaw County Sheriff's Office, the words, we're not going to change the spelling on that. It's not going to change at all. So we wanted something that would be here, and when a new sheriff takes office, if he decides to change badges or whatever, he don't have to change badges and patches because our badge and patch are not the same symbol. This is something that represents the county.
Well done.
It's important to have 360-degree identification on our officers because we don't want to give a bad guy an opportunity to see us from a side view and to say, well, I didn't know that was a deputy. So it's important to have that those signs all around us. A couple more things I wanted to kind of add to the list here. If you know, recently we had a deputy that was struck by a car at a school crossing. She's doing better than could be expected from being hit like that. She's still going through a lot of tests and everything. She hadn't come back to work yet. When she does, it'll be on light duty. Taking it easy, taking it slow. Her spirit's good. Her mind's good. She is definitely a testament to, if anybody asks if a female can do the job, I don't know many males that could have took a hit like that. And if the doctor had released her, she'd went back to work the same day. I mean, this is a tough woman, and we're proud to have her as part of our department. Because of this, I've been kind of getting involved with a state law they're trying to pass now on hands-free. Don't know when they're going to get a chance to vote on it, but what we're doing is to step out and lead by example. We're trying to create a policy now on hands-free that we're going to implement there at the sheriff's office. I think it's a common sense law, so why wait on a law to get passed to start practicing common sense? We're going to start doing it ahead of time. So I'm hoping to get it real soon, policy up within the department. We also had a officer-involved shooting. That's not something we have commonly here in Kershaw County. Last year we had one, and we've had one this year. Difference is last year we had one shooting. 2 deputies were involved. Both had body cameras. Neither one of the body cameras were on when the shooting took place. So we have no digital evidence as to what took place there. It's all statements. That's all we have. The incident we had a couple weeks ago, there's 2 deputies, the first 2 that were there, both had body cameras. I went up to each one of them and asked them separately, did you turn your body camera on? Both of them said no. They didn't even remember they had a body camera. But we got footage from both body cameras because we recently purchased signaling devices for the cameras. In my opinion, they paid for themselves in that one incident because our car cameras did not pick up the footage. We got everything on body camera from both of the deputies. It was just, like I said, all of our signaling devices paid for themselves in that one incident. Our deputies did great. I'm not going to go into details, but they, in my opinion, done everything they could to avoid the incident. And then after the incident took place, they done everything they could to render first aid. Even gave because we couldn't get a helicopter up, we gave a police escort to the ambulance to get the kid to the hospital. So proud of what our guys done. And again, we were able to capture it all on this, all our body cameras, and the deputies never had to think about turning them on. Now, we owe that to our Sheriff's Foundation for putting the money up. I think Steve Zobel's here today from the foundation. As soon as we asked for it, they voted, give it to us like the next day. But I will say, everybody on council, Vic, when I came to you with the same thing, everybody was looking for the money. They just happened to get it to us fastest. But I know council and Vic, I know y'all were doing everything you could to get us the money, and I appreciate that from everybody. And that's all I have.
And thank you, Sheriff. I imagine there may be a comment or two, but I do want to say thank you to Steve Zobel for being here and for the team that you bring behind our great sheriff. Mr. Tucker, you had comments.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff Bone, thank you for coming out and giving us the good news and all the great things that your department is doing, you men and women. Can you just tell a little bit more how those cameras activate? Because, you know, when you're in a shooting and a drilling, flowing,
Yes.
you do forget things. I mean, this is survival mode now.
Exactly. You know, and it's there's three things that can activate the body cameras we have now. One is when they turn on the blue lights. Two is when they draw their weapon, their firearm. There's a signal device attached to their holster. And three is when they pull out their taser. Those are your three biggest things that
Wow,
your liability
that's
and
Isn't that great?
yeah. So these are, you know, it's technology. You got to stay ahead of it. We're one of the very few departments. Matter of fact, our trucks, when we got them, we had the signal device put on. We got them done at a business that puts on a lot of lights, a lot of packages from all over the state. And we were the first ones to have these put on there. So we're not the first agency. I know Richland County has them, but I think that was where the tests were done at Richland County Sheriff's Office. They're a bigger department than us. I always like for somebody else to test stuff out before we get it. But they did talk with us, shared all the information they got. We went forward, and I think we're one of the few agencies in the state to have this. And I think it's very much needed. And like I said, it did pay for itself 2 weeks ago.
We thank you for being an innovator, not afraid of technology and moving in that direction, because it not only protects the officer, but protects the citizens as well. And my last thing, can you have a touch of truck day for Snodgrass, because he almost wet his seat over here when he saw that pickup.
Look sharp.
So we'll get him a test drive. We'll have two sets of teeth driving around him.
Uh-oh. Okay, Mr. Snodgrass, defend yourself.
Sheriff Bowden, I don't have a question. I do want to make a statement. I was going to make it in my briefings, but you're here. I want to comment on the incident that you just commented on. I was close to that. It happened in my backyard. And it really made me realize what we already know. But thank you so much to our law enforcement and first responder community that get placed in situations and where they have to make decisions in which none of us would really want to be in that situation to make that decision. But in that situation, I firmly believe you guys saved so many lives in that community that day. Because there are so many different ways that situation could have ended. And what I saw was we have a sheriff's department in Kershaw County that is highly trained, and just it really makes me proud and just very, very humbling that we have people that sign up to do jobs like that, to put on that badge, knowing that they're going to have to make some tough decisions. And so thank you so much, because it could have went a lot different that evening. But you guys saved the lives of a lot of people that evening. Thank you so much.
Yes. And this close to Veterans Day, the officer that did have to fire the shots, he is a veteran, one of 12 that we have at the sheriff's office now that are veterans. So we're proud of what they've done.
Other comments? Mr. Jones?
Sheriff, thank you for being here. And I appreciate you keeping this council up to date on what you're doing in your department and your expenditures. Even though you're certainly not perfect, your department isn't. I'm not even perfect.
Whoa.
But I'll tell you this. That might not come out the right way. But anyway, I just want to tell you this. What I appreciate, I've had a couple of folks come up to me and say, boy, y'all really gave the sheriff a lot of money this year. I said, no, we didn't. We gave him the same amount of money we gave the sheriff last year. There was no increases at all in the sheriff's budget. They said, well, I see some of the deputies got salary increases. There were some additional positions put out there. I said, well, what the sheriff has done is he's been working very closely with our county administrator, and I appreciate Vic Carpenter's always having an open door to you and pretty much to everybody else. And y'all have been working very close together. But everything you've done has been being creative within your own means, and no additional monies whatsoever. So I appreciate that, and I'm going to challenge you. I hope we can do that next year with no tax increase as well. I believe we can. I believe we can.
Whatever you say.
But thank you. No, sir.
Good answer.
You're number one on the radio.
I can tell we're going to do the best with what you give us.
Well, thank you so much. But I think it needs to be noted what he does with his here. And I really just appreciate the way you handle your money and that, you know, you do things, and you always keep Mr. Carpenter informed. He keeps us informed, so thank you so much.
Other comments? Very good indeed, Sheriff. Thank you. That was profoundly helpful. Thank you very much. With that, we move to item number 3 on our agenda, Lookoff Fire Department and a bulletproof vest, Kershaw County Fire Service. Can you help me introduce this one, please? Is that you, Chris? Sure. Thank you, sir. Come on, Chief. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you all as well. Council, thank you for letting us be here. We are excited to be able to pass over some equipment that we have worked collaboratively with other agencies. I think, is Gerald? You'll see we'll run through some quick slides right quick because I know we're in a hurry and there's a big agenda here. So
there's no hurry. We want to hear from you. Go
First
ahead.
and foremost, I do want to thank every agency that was involved. I do want to thank, we need to make a change there. We'll let the media take care of that. It's the Health Foundation of Kershaw County. So it's kind of backwards on the agenda. And Victor Jowers called me this morning and said, make sure we change that, because if it wasn't for those people, we would not be standing up equipment. It was roughly a grant that we wrote for $45,000 that impacted every single agency in this county. We supplied, and we'll go through the slide. I'm going to let Captain Jones talk about that because he put a lot of work into this. Battalion Chief Chris Tidwell is here from Camden. And then I think we got Chief Ray and Chief Wiles in the back. They're going to be, I guess, taking the vest off our hands. And some other equipment there. But one of the biggest things that I would like to say before I turn this podium over to Captain Jones is I've been in this county for a long time. I know I look good, all right, and I look young, other than the hair issue. But let me tell you something. I've been around public service to know, long enough to know, there was times where we all played in our own sandbox and we all did our own thing. Well, I can tell you those times are gone, all right? We have stepped up, and you'll see just roughly here in a minute how important it is that every single agency in this county is on the same page.
Yeah.
And we have achieved that. It took us a couple of years to get it done. I very vividly remember you walking through walking into his office, Carpenter, and Gerald and I were meeting in his office. This was directly the day after the Parkland shooting in February of 2018. You passed that office and you said, we have got to do something about what is going on in this nation. We've got to do something about what is happening as far as, and what is our plan for active shooters. And you just stuck your head in that office, and Gerald and I were already working on that. And you said, well, you know what, it's probably going to take more than just you two. Well, guess what? Contrary to that belief, we took care of it. Us two took care of it. And we hopped on it, and we got on board. We pushed everybody together. I'm going to give it to Gerald because Gerald has pushed. We meet once or twice a month and have since then, since early 2018. We're fixing to hit 2020. So we have worked on this thing hard. We've worked on it on tabletop. We've worked on it paperwork-wise, research. We've done everything we could possibly do. We've been out in the field. We've trained with the sheriff's office, the city police officers, Bethune, Elgin, everybody. Every agency, public safety agency in this county we have trained with together, all at once, not separately, and said, you know what, we're going to put this together, we're going to put this together, and we're going to put this together. Let's just see how it works. No, we stood there together in the same room, and we do that once a month to make sure we are protecting this community and the people that are in it. So a big, huge thanks to the Health Foundation, who could not be here tonight. They've had some other things that have come up, and they have been very busy. So we met with them earlier last week as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Captain Jones right quick and let him run through the slide, and then we'll make a quick presentation. Obviously, we didn't bring 2 tons of ballistic vests in here to hand out tonight, because not unless everybody wants to give a hand. So I'm going to turn it over to him and let him do his thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Captain Jones.
Yep.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. And I couldn't do what I do without a great team. So again, to echo what Chief Spitzer said, you know, we have a great team here in Kershaw County, whether they're wearing a Lugoff, Camden, Kershaw County, whatever patch they may wear, then we're all one team. And I couldn't do what I do without a great leader like Chief Spitzer, who I go to him with these crazy harebrained ideas sometimes, and he kind of looks at me funny. But this was one idea. He didn't look at me funny. He was like, go for it. So I thank him for giving me the leeway to do it. So like he said, the Asher Committee was formed early 2018. If you don't advance to the next slide. Led by Gerald Blanchard and Chris Spitzer, who's my chief. We gathered up all emergency services, even school district, hospital, and other interested parties. The goal of the Asher Committee was to bring these players to the table to discuss what we do in Kershaw County, what would we do if it happened here. And the quote that I used in the grant application was from Sutherland Springs, Texas. If y'all recall that shooting, it seems like we have so many, they're getting hard to think about anymore. But small town in Texas, population 600. I looked up the population today for Bethune. It's like 293. The population for Elgin's about 1,300, and that was a few years ago. So if you think it can happen here, unfortunately, ask the guy in Sutherland, Texas, or Sutherland Springs, Texas. It was a small town, and they had it happen there too. So we don't want to be behind the game. We want to be ahead of the game. We want to be proactive. So that's why we all came together as one. With the ultimate goal is working with law enforcement partners and working EMS and fire and dispatch and all those involved is to stop the killing and stop the dying. The law enforcement goes in and stops the killing. We come in and help stop the dying. We treat the patients. We stop the bleeding. Next slide. So our Asher Committee began working on policies, training, tabletop exercises, and we're leading to eventually more full-scale exercises. And Asher, the acronym Asher, it doesn't just involve active shooters. It could be a knife. It could be any kind of weapon. It could be a major incident. So it's not just active shooter events. We're training for everything. Next slide. EMS has hosted some tactical emergency casualty care. It's called TECC classes. They've hosted 2. We've sent people from Lugoff to Columbia to take TECC classes, but a lot of this stuff came from the military. So we talked about veterans and we talked about military. A lot of the combat lifesaver training that you learn in military has been adopted for us as first responder levels. We've participated in 2 active attack integrated response classes. We hosted one, EMS hosted another. EMS has been a big training partner with us for Stop the Bleed, Smart Triage. They've really ramped that up, even offering classes to citizens now. First responder classes, EMS has been training our first responders, not only for active shooter events, but chest pains and heart attacks, all that kind of stuff. And Lugoff and Camden both has hosted incident command classes to help our law enforcement partners help fire EMS all across the county. Next slide. So once the Asher Committee started to meet, it became apparent that we had some shortfalls in some equipment and some training. So we talked about that, and like I said, with Chief Spitzer's permission, I approached the Asher Committee about doing a grant to help some of those shortfalls for fire and law enforcement. Like I said earlier, once law enforcement stops the threat, and even a good example is the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. If y'all have ever read about that one, law enforcement saved countless lives because that was a chaotic scene. The scene was not secure. There was chaos everywhere. So you had law enforcement officers applying tourniquets. You had law enforcement officers packing wounds, taking people even to the hospital, and police cruisers. So law enforcement and fire and EMS, we all work together. And Gerald's used the term before. We become a force multiplier, if you will, when we all work together. We've got deputies now, thanks to Sheriff Bone, who are first responders. They're able to do what we do as fire departments. And you know, we don't carry a gun, but, you know, we do a lot of what they do now, too. Our firefighters are going to go into that warm zone. We call it a warm zone. So the officers, the deputies, the city police officers, whoever they may be, they go in and take down the shooter. And normally, in most cases, that's one shooter or maybe more, but typically in the United States, it's been one active shooter, or if somebody has a knife or whatever weapon. They go in and take that shooter down. They take that threat down, and we go in behind them. We go in protected. They're protecting us, so we call it the warm zone. They're in the hot zone. We're in the warm zone. So we come in with a police escort, just the vest and all the protective gear we need, because if something changes, these scenes can be very dynamic. For those of you that have been in law enforcement, I know, Mr. Tucker, you've been in some law enforcement, Mr. Jones, things change very quickly. So we have to protect our firefighters. We have to protect our EMS providers. We don't want to send them in with no protection at all. So that's why we looked at the equipment, found out our shortfalls. We applied for the grant, and thankfully, next slide, Danny. You can see here on the photo that Chief Spitzer was assigning the award last year. This is a picture of Vic Jowers in our local paper, Chronicle Independent, presenting the award to us for $44,083.88. This was December of last year. So we've been working on this thing since December of last year to procure the equipment, to make sure we got the right thing. As far as vests, looking for the best quote, looking for the best bang for the buck. Next slide. So we talked with law enforcement, found out that they didn't have what we call individual first aid kits, which are called IFAKs. And the IFAK contains tourniquets, trauma shears, chest seals, bandages, and gauze. It's, again, borrowed from the military. A lot of your military people, they wear them on their self because it is what it's called, an individual first aid kit. If someone gets shot, that's their personal kit. Now, can we use that on a citizen? Yes, we can. But typically it's for the officer, or like I said, it could be used for the citizen. So we purchased those first with the grant funding, thanks to Health Foundation. I distributed 75 to Kershaw County Sheriff's Office, 35 to Camden Police, 7 to Elgin Police, and 3 to Bethune Police. Our goal was to get every sworn officer in Kershaw County that worked on a local level, and that's what we were able to accomplish with this grant. Next slide. And this is mainly what we're here for tonight, is also to talk to you about the fire services. Prior to this grant, no fire department in Kershaw County had any kind of ballistic protection. There was zero protection for firefighters for this capacity. So we worked with Sheriff's Office. I had Rick Bailey from the Sheriff's Office. I had Sergeant Jeff Chaffis from the city of Camden. I had Battalion Chief Chris Tidwell. We all met and we discussed, and we vetted some vendors, and we kind of looked and seen what the best options would be. And this is the vest we came up with on the screen, and I have one here tonight to show you and present ceremoniously to you on behalf of Lugoff Fire and the Health Foundation. But the vests have been distributed to Camden Fire and Lugoff Fire, and then Kershaw County Fire will pick up their vest this week. Excellent. So they'll be able to get their vest out to their staff, and we can be protected. Each vest, if you see that big pouch on the front, those are those IFAKs I was telling you about. So each vest will have an individual first aid kit already attached to it. So next slide. Also, with some funding, EMS was able to give Camden Fire Department and Lugoff Fire Department what we call an Asher kit. So the Asher kit contains 2 disposable litters. It contains a smart triage system, which is basically, if you're familiar with triage, you have green, yellow, red, black for your triage system. And we can not only use this for Asher events, but you could also use this for what we call a mass casualty incident. Say a tour bus on Interstate 20. You know, you have multiple victims. The firefighters can get there using the Asher kit, go ahead and break out the Asher kit. They have a smart triage kit in there. They can start triaging patients. They can put the greens with the green, the yellows, reds, so we can prioritize. So when EMS gets there, then they can make further transport decisions based on how many reds or greens or yellows or even blacks we have. The goal is each county volunteer fire department, so there's 12 main stations, would receive 1 Asher kit. Also, they're receiving 2 ballistic vests. So that's where the number 24 came from. So each main station will get 2 ballistic vests and 1 Asher kit. So that will be spread out throughout the county. And that's another one of those force multipliers is you've got this equipment spread out. So if something happens in Buffalo Mount Pisgah, you've got equipment up there. If something happens in Elgin, you've got equipment there. Next slide. So our future goals, with Gerald's leadership and the other members of the committee, we're going to continue to work together. We're going to work more on talking about unified command. That's our big thing, is all the big three plus dispatch. Can't never forget dispatch because they are the true first responder. But the big three, fire, EMS, law enforcement, dispatch, we're going to all come together and start working on more unified command training at some of our events, such as Lights of Lugoff, Carolina Cup, parades, that sort of thing, to kind of implement Asher into that. So we're training, I believe in train like you fight. So fight like you train. So that's what we're trying to do. And then we're looking to bring more training to Kershaw County for some of our volunteers, some of our other staff as far as active shooter response. So the sky's the limit. We're working hard, and we just thank y'all for the time. And you got some more comments if you want to add.
Yeah, just a quick one. Sheriff Bone just mentioned to me that dividends have already paid off because the IFAC kit, or one of the IFAC's kits that we issued to the Sheriff's Department, was indeed used last week. So that right there, just go ahead, and speaks volumes of what we've done. So we've taken up enough time. We would like to present ceremoniously the kit and the vest, and that would mean one more picture for the night. I don't know what the rest of these fine folks have going on or what you have going on, so we are going to take one more picture if you do not mind, and then we will be out of your hair.
Well, yeah, let's have some questions first. Mr. Tucker.
Yeah, what's the life expectancy on the vest? Are they like law enforcement, 5 years? Or?
That's a good question. So we debated that a lot, and I don't want to get into details about the protective levels and stuff like that for security reasons, but these vests will last 20 years. They're steel plates, so they're a little heavier than a ceramic plate, but they don't have the 5-year shelf life, so we don't have that problem.
That's good to know.
And we try to make them fireman proof. If y'all know how firemen are or firefighters are, we like to tear up stuff.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
So those ceramic vests are very fragile. So we debated it a lot, and that's the decision we made because we had to look at future budgets.
Yeah.
Does that kit Velcro on, or does it strap on?
The IFAC kit?
Yes.
It Velcros on.
Okay. So you got to be careful when you're moving about with the hose and stuff.
Other comments? Mr. Jones.
Chief, I'd just like to share this with you, and as I did with the sheriff, I really appreciate what you do. And I truly do. I don't think many people know that your first year you came in, you didn't ask for a tax increase.
No,
you
sir.
utilized monies from within, and you made things happen. And I just want you to know I really appreciate that, and I'm not sure that many people in the community know that. I'm looking for another challenge like that for next year as well, sir. Job well done.
I am too, unfortunately, but my good friend Dennis Arledge, I hope he treats us well this year, and we get good news come March or April, and
well, you work very hard and do
I
a great job.
appreciate that.
And I think some of your commissioners are here tonight, aren't they?
Absolutely. I think Mr. Bob Levangie, he's here, and I believe he's the only one. Y'all can always count on Mr. Bob.
He's
to come.
everywhere.
Yeah, he's
everywhere.
nonstop. So we got a great board of commissioners. Mr. Carpenter, Vic Carpenter, came and spoke with us last Monday night at our board meeting and presented, again, Vision 2030 and the census for 2020. We're pushing that out. Social media, we want to make sure that's taken care of. So I know, again, y'all have got a long night. So thank you, Mr. Jones, for that. And we appreciate allowing us to come up to present tonight.
Appreciate y'all being here.
Other comments?
Any?
Yeah, Mr. Snodgrass.
I just want to echo what I mentioned to Sheriff Bone. Thank you guys so much, fire service, ambulance, dispatch, for signing up to be put in tough situations for the sake of the community. Thank you guys so much. I'm connected to several firemen in the community, and so just a lot of respect for those families who do that. Thank you so much.
Yes, we appreciate that. And again, like I said, you all have somebody to really be thankful for with Gerald Blanchard starting this whole thing. If it wasn't for Gerald, we would all probably still be sitting where we're at or where we were before. And you've got a good guy over there.
Sure do.
All right.
Let's get a quick picture and everybody come forward. Bob Levangie ought to come up too, and you, Gerald, certainly.
Come on up, Mr. Bob.
I'm all right. Oh, that's not far enough back. I think I finally got you. Please.
Chief.
And Lugoff Fire, I'm not here asking for money. I'm here to thank y'all for all the support that you give us. We are in the process of building a paid fire service in Kershaw County along with our great volunteers that we have in the county. We started with the beginning of the budget. Strong for us with all this. At this point, we did 2 interview sessions for battalion chiefs. We had 9 battalion chiefs we interviewed. And as of November the 4th of this year, we hired 2. And at this time, I'd like to call them up and introduce them if y'all would like to meet them.
Absolutely.
First one being Stephen Teal. Second one being, and I'll give you a little bit of history about these guys. Stephen Teal, he comes from the Cassett area. He has been in the fire service for 14 years. He comes to us from Columbia Fire Department. He's firefighter 1, 2, instructor certified, and leadership qualified. And we had 9 people put in. We had a lot of great people to choose from. And he is a local boy. He's been with, I remember when he was a kid. So I've known him for a long time. And he's all right. But we think he'll do us a good job. He's known throughout the county, through all the fire departments. So we think he will be one of our good guys, and he will be one of our battalion chiefs. Our second guy is Gary Parnell. For those that don't know Gary, he was with the Charlotte Thompson Fire Department as a volunteer. He also has 14 plus years in the fire service with Columbia Fire Department. He has firefighter 1, firefighter 2, instructor certification. Both of them has extrication training, and they're going to be a great asset to this department as we grow. As again, they started on November the 4th. We used them last week for orientation. We're using them this week to go around and look at all the fire departments and meet some of the members. And they're also doing airflow tests on our truck, on our air packs, which lets them look and see what we have at each one of these stations. And coming this Thursday, they will have interviewed 12 firefighters. We felt like to make them a part of our family, that they would be better off to us if they help with the hiring. They went and did the interviews. They talked to all the guys, and by Friday, we should be giving out, calling the people to ask them, do they want to take the jobs. They start this week, first Saturday morning, 7 o'clock. They'll be starting, he'll be over at Blaney Fire Department, getting ready for his fireman to come in by November the 30th, but he will be starting Friday. Gary, unfortunately, drew short straw, so he starts on a Saturday, but 12-hour shifts. So he will be starting this coming Saturday, and then he'll work Saturday, Sunday. Stephen will fall in Monday, Tuesday. Yes, sir, Jimmy.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Now, first off, congratulations to both of you. I'm going to say this, the Parnell name is a strong, strong history of firefighters. So you got a tough name there to live up to. And all good folks, too. Tell me exactly what are their duties within 10 seconds. Short.
Yeah. They'll be in charge of the guys, which you'll have 10 overall, counting them per shift. They'll check the trucks. They'll make sure the guys are lined up and scheduled for their days of work. They'll do all the fire reports. They'll help out with investigations. They'll run some calls depending on the severity of the call, but they will also be running from Blaney to Buffalo.
Proud to have y'all on board.
Thank you.
We've also, we ordered their gear and their uniforms. Luckily, theirs has came in, but you cannot order the gear until you find out who you hired. So that's in the process of being done. We've ordered the vehicles for these guys. One of them has came in. It's over in Columbia now. Radios, lights, sirens, all being put on. One of them is on hold right now. Unfortunately, GMC had a strike, so we were knocked off a little bit on the second truck, but we're looking for it soon, I hope. We're also working at the Blaney Fire Department. One thing we have is with Blaney, we have our EMS in there with them now, so we're working around them, and we're going to paint, do flooring. We're actually going to come back to you shortly with a request about it building an EMS station behind Blaney Fire Department. And the firemen will move in at that time. But right now, we're going to work a 12-hour shift with these guys, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And we'll still use our part-time. But we're also looking at putting generators at Blaney Fire Department so we can, once we go to that, we can work our 24/7. So we're doing that. For those on the East Wateree side, we purchased land in Cassett for the Cassett Fire Station. Hopefully once we get Blaney up and rolling, we will take and start on our Cassett Fire Department, and by the end of next year, hopefully, have that up and running 24/7. That's another project we got going. And at this time, we've had Pete Furlong go out and address some of the issues such as drawings of the buildings and what we need. We've done geo studies, we've done perk tests. We're just waiting and hoping we can get there and get it going. But I'll take any questions or
comments from the council. Mr. Tucker?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to make sure that I think the titles are battalions.
Battalion chiefs.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Other comments?
And welcome.
Mr. Snodgrass, go ahead.
So congratulations, guys. Welcome aboard. I know you guys are highly qualified, and I know there's a tough field of candidates. So glad to have you on board. And Mr. Jones, Parnell does come from a very strong fireman line, but I got confidence in him, and he'll do well.
Okay. Other comments?
Mr. Parnell's dad made a career fireman at Camden Fire Department.
That's right.
So
That's
he
right.
does have.
I remember him.
And Mr. Jones, you probably worked
Who's
with
his
him.
dad?
Yep.
Who is his dad?
Gene.
Oh, my word. Okay.
Not this one, Gene Parnell.
Who's your daddy? I
Good
think
folks.
at some point we'll need to make sure the towns of Elgin and Bethune know this forward progress. I'd suggest you find a moment to get on their agenda and tell them how it's coming, because that'll impact their tax rolls. Secondly, at this point we're on budget, and we'll see we'll take a look at it during the budget cycle to make sure that the plan we put in place after 3.5 years of study, led by Mr. Connell and participated by us all, is being carried out. But I congratulate both of you gentlemen. Welcome. Other comments? Let's go. Thank you very much, Gene and Chief. With that, we move to the next item, which is a series of resolutions. Item number 1 is a resolution by Kershaw County Council naming, oh no, I'm on the wrong page. Approval of minutes at tab C. Can we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Tucker, second? Second for Mr. Gardner. Discussion?
I think they all sleep.
Doesn't seem like there is any. Let's move on to a vote. All those in favor of the minutes as presented, raise your hands, please. And it's unanimous. Now we move to a series of resolutions. The first one is a resolution by Kershaw County Council naming the Wateree River Park Veterans Park. It's at tab D. Can we have a motion on that, Mr. Tucker?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion that we name our Wateree space over there by number 1, the Wateree River Veterans Park.
Second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Gardner. Discussion?
If I may.
I yield. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
Mr. Jones, go right ahead.
If you had something, Mr. Tucker, you can go ahead and
No, go right ahead, sir.
Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. Jones.
Let me just say this. As a fellow veteran, I too am a veteran. I appreciate all of what you guys have done and all our veterans. It's no secret that I have not supported this park. I thought it was a waste of money to buy it. The land is useless. I'm going to support the name tonight because I've talked to a couple of you folks out there sitting there, and we discussed it. We own it. I mean, I want to see it be the best it can be, but what I do not want is to start putting money into something, a new project such as this, when we still have so much we haven't completed. Larry Doby's or the West Complex. There's so much more that needs to be done there. And I have a question, and maybe somebody can help me give me an answer to this. Who introduced this, or who initiated the naming Veterans Park or the River Park? I mean, was it initiated by one of y'all, or was it initiated by someone on council? I mean, I'm just curious. I said, who's the individual, though? There had to be just one person to come up and say, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, come on
absolutely.
up, Mr. Fuller. The Commander Fuller coming up.
I'm Commander David Fuller of the American Legion Post 17 in Camden. And yes, like I say, the letter that was handed out to the council members is back in July of 2018. It was signed by Glenn Abnett, our historian, our adjutant, Jimmy Rabin, and myself, Commander David Fuller. And this was by the council that we would like to name after they found out about the park property there. And of course, the 505th monument, that was brought up in that also. And the reason we brought that up, anybody that's been to the 505th ceremony out there at where it's located, everybody knows where it's located, in front of the Invista property there. The DuPont, once it was a DuPont property. It's hard to get to. And we've always talked about possibly moving that monument someplace. We didn't have no place to move it. So once we found out that they had purchased that property, and I can't say when they purchased property, I was all for it. But the county purchased the property. They're not going to give it back. So let's go ahead and make the best of it. So we decided we'd move the monument there. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'd like to see that done. It's hard to get to the monument if you go from the Highway 1. and I think I mentioned this before the council before, if there's probably several people in this room right now that's driven by that monument. And I'd like to see everybody in here raise their hand, but they're not going to. Has anybody ever seen anybody stop their side of the road and looking at that monument? No.
I mean, sure, I've once about as many people I've seen at the River Park. Let me just say this. The paratroopers back in the 50s jumping down where the River Park is bought, was that part of, do you know who they were? Do y'all have any idea what they were doing when they were doing their exercises?
In the 50s?
Yeah, because I remember
what they were doing in 1943.
I was on the bridge. I remember being on the bridge in the 50s, standing there watching the parachuters come down.
That would be the 82nd Airborne.
82nd Airborne.
82nd,
Yeah,
okay.
I was just curious as to who that would have been. I didn't know. Well, let me just say this. So all I asked was who initiated it. Who was the first person to initiate it, and that would have been
Post 17, I guess. I mean, as far as
the whole group together.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, we had once we found out that they had purchased the park,
Yeah.
we had a special executive board committee meeting, and we
Yeah.
met, and we decided.
Yeah, well, I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to get answers, and I'm going to support it tonight as a veteran for my fellow veterans. And I appreciate some of them out there who have taken time to talk to me and not ignore me. Thank you so much, Butch. Yeah, thank you all of you. Anyway, Mr. Chairman, that's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Other comments?
Okay.
All right. Let me read the resolution and then we'll vote on it. A resolution by Kershaw County Council naming Wateree River Veterans Park. Whereas Kershaw County has a park adjacent to the Wateree River, and whereas American Legion Post 17 has requested that the park owned by the county adjacent to the river be named and dedicated in honor of all Kershaw County veterans of military services. And whereas Kershaw County finds it appropriate to honor all Kershaw County veterans by naming the park in their honor. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Kershaw County Park adjacent to the river shall be henceforth be named and known as the Wateree River Veterans Park. The park has been named in honor of all military veterans and all veterans who have served and continue to serve. The park has been named and dedicated in honor of the sacrifice and service of all county veterans who have served our nation in both foreign and domestic capacities and helped to preserve the Constitution of all the great freedoms it protects. 4, Kershaw County finds it appropriate that a monument be installed in honor of those veterans for whom the park is named, and such a monument may be erected in the park by interested parties. The use of private funds following approval of the proposed monument by this council. 5, should a monument honoring Kershaw County veterans be erected, the proposed monument shall be erected so as to be visible to passersby traveling on U.S. Highway 1, as well as be fully open and accessible to the public, and adopted and ratified in this county council. Any further comments? With that, we move to Mr. Tucker.
Yes, sir. I would just like to make the one comment that I know that y'all had more in your letter that you requested, but I thought those were discussions for another day, another fight. But this takes care of the naming and a future monument, and I would encourage Post 17, since you have the lead, to get with your fellow American Legionnaires here, the other posts and VFWs, if you decide to do a fundraiser to get the monument erected, to include all of them so we can build a nice monument out there for all.
And the VFW and the Marine Corps League and the Navy League and all those guys.
Who all wants to help fundraise.
Okay, are you ready to vote?
I am.
With that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Tucker. We move to the next item on the agenda. Item number 2, a resolution to support a free roaming cat program. It's at tab E. I'll read the proclamation. Slightly amended from the one in your product.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, for the record, I'd just like to make sure we read the one that I handed out.
Got it right here.
With the change.
We need to make sure the media gets it as well. Thank you, Jimmy.
Well, they will once you.
Yeah, thank you. Whereas Kershaw County Council finds that free roaming cats threaten the health and safety and welfare of the citizens, and whereas County Council further finds that free roaming cats increase the number of strays and contributes to the animal population. And whereas Kershaw County seeks to reduce the feral and stray cat population by authorizing the implementation of a free-roaming cat program, and whereas the program would implement trap, neuter, and return, which is known as TNR, method as a humane way to handle cat overpopulation, and whereas the feral or stray would be spayed and neutered, vaccinated, and ear-tipped before being returned to the area where it was trapped, whereas the program will be administered by the Kershaw County Humane Society, which will collaborate with the county code enforcement to develop rules for the program, whereas Kershaw County Humane Society shall report to Kershaw County 1 year after the program's inception on its functionality and success. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Kershaw County Council supports, Jimmy, supports the implementation of a free-roaming cat program in the county. Can we have a motion? Mr. Jones.
Mr. Chairman, I will so move on the motion, but we'll have some discussion.
Absolutely. A second?
Second.
For Mr. Snodgrass. Defer to you, Jimmy. Go right ahead.
And might want to go to Ken DeVos if I could. If you look on the third paragraph down where it says authorize the implementation, are we okay to leave that word in there? Since we got support on the last?
Yes, Mr. Jones, it makes it clear that you support the program, but the program, it says, will be administered by Kershaw County Humane Society. So they're going to administer the program, and they do say they will corroborate with Kershaw County Code Enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're the ones that pick up the animals.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Other comments? Yeah, Mr. Snodgrass.
Mr. Carpenter, question. So the way this is worded, so is code enforcement prepared to collaborate with this effort? Or do we need to do anything more?
No, so it's really not going to require any changes because they're already picking up stray cats
Okay.
and taking them to the shelter.
Okay. Yeah, I just, if I could continue, I attended the session that they had on, what was it, September 18th, I believe, the informational session. I attended that, and a lot of great information, and really, the only humane way to handle our cat population. I don't know if you noticed, Kershaw County, we just might get a new mascot because we've got cats all over the place. I reside in the neighborhood. We have our own little population of community cats. Oh, is it just East Kansas Day? Okay, well, we're happy to have them. Bring them on, But I've studied other programs in other counties, and this is a very, like I said, a very effective way to handle that. So I'm proud to support this.
Other comments? Thank you for bringing that. Thank you for bringing that forward. We move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, Danny. And we move on to item number 3, an inducement resolution providing a FELO between Kershaw County and Project Walnut A. With that, I go to you, Mr. Carpenter, to introduce this.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, tonight we have two projects, Walnut A and Walnut B. You'll see following Walnut A. We present tonight to the council for an inducement resolution and a first reading and title only for those two projects.
Comments? Title only. A little later on, under ordinances, you'll see item number 7 and 8 that further carries this forward.
You want some comments now?
Yes,
You-
please.
Okay.
I guess I do need to put the motion before.
I thought I might have missed it. But I
thank
thought I
you.
might have taken a quick nap and missed that.
Thank you, Jimmy. Do we have a motion to approve?
So made.
Thank you, Mr. Connell. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Snodgrass. Jimmy, you opened it. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. The inducement resolutions for Project Walnut A and Project Walnut B are good for Kershaw County. The administrator tells me these projects are real possibilities from real companies, and I believe that. In 8 weeks running economic development, Dick Carpenter has done what was not done in 8 years of failed economic development leadership, politically and administratively. Congratulations, Vic. Vic Carpenter has shown that he is capable of running economic development in Kershaw County, and I believe he should continue to run economic development in Kershaw County. He's going to want to shoot me, but I'm giving you my opinion. It is more effective as to results and more cost-effective. Kershaw County is spending over $1 million a year on economic development and has lost significant jobs and significant investment. County administrator appears to be turning things around. I think he is a capable man, and he's capable of doing economic development and reversing 8 years of failed economic development and failed economic development leadership. I believe that Carpenter can and should direct economic development for Kershaw County along with county administrator. You know, I look at the word inducement, and it brings to my mind just, it's like two folks coming together holding hands on a first date and walking. It's a good move. And to know that I've come up here many, many times to see Mr. Carpenter. He's been gone. He's either been in Columbia, he's either been somewhere else, or he's been meeting with staff. And we're very fortunate to have this young lady as part of the economic development. I'm very proud of what you do. I just want you to know that. She never stops. She's always there to pick up the pieces. And thank you, Lauren. But anyway, job well done, Vic. And I look for this. You know, you're closing the deal, buddy. We haven't had that happen. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman.
Other comments? Mr. Tucker.
Thank you. I just want to address this very quickly, a concern one of our citizens had earlier, Mr. Webb, in reference to in title only. If you read this resolution that we have, it's got pertinent information in it. It just doesn't have the industry. It may not have what type of jobs in it and how many jobs. It's got the amount of investments in it, and that's public knowledge. But, you know, these days and times, everything is so competitive, and not just here in the county of Kershaw, the state of South Carolina, or the United States. It's global. And a lot of these companies are, you know, their competitors are just waiting to just cut them off and take advantage of what they may know or what move they may be doing. It's like playing chess is what I'm trying to say. You can't always let your opponent know what your next move is. So it's no secret here for us. We're honoring the will of the company that wants to come here. And if they can't trust us before they come here, what make you think they're going to trust us once they get here, if they ever come? So just my tidbit of information.
Other comments? I do thank Mr. Carpenter for this. There are some other players. Lauren Reeder and Stuart Kidd were in on the hunt. And, but I would say this, that we ought to show grace for the work that's been laid down by Peggy, who departed. I will tell you firsthand, for those that spend time in this business, that there was a lot of work that went on for over a year on many of these projects. And I will pass along congratulations to Ms. McLean when I see her again. Any further comments? With that, we move to a vote on the first item. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it passes unanimously. We move to the next item, which is likewise on Walnut Project B. Mr. Carpenter?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, as with the first one, this is a Project Walnut B. We have in front of you a inducement resolution, and later on we'll also have first reading and title only.
Very good. Can we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
I didn't get the first.
Snodgrass.
David, thank you.
Tucker.
And then a second from Mr. Tucker. Any comments? Likewise,
I would.
Mr. Jones, go ahead.
I would very quickly. You know, when I think about economic development, I think about the workload, how much they have to do, and what has to be done in it. And
gentlemen, let's listen to Mr. Jones, please. Go ahead, Mr. Jimmy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I excuse them this time.
We love you too.
But when I think about what industries look for, a couple things come to my mind. I think when it comes to the county administrator, the economic development director, the chairman of council, or members of council, they could give a rip about that. I think what industries really want, it's all about is location, location, location. And you've got to be able to sell that location. That lead person has to be able to sell that location. I agree with the chairman. This lady over here is an extremely hard worker, very confident, has done us an outstanding job. I thank the Lord we got her with us. And I've always felt that way. But when it comes to the economic development director's position, that's what it all boils down to. They got very little to do. They probably have about 15, 16 hours worth of work a week. I think it was Mr. Ralph Norman went to Washington. He started looking at the federal economic development program. I thought it was one of the biggest botches of bureaucracy you could have. But anyway, needless to say, good job, Vic. Appreciate everything. Lauren, thank you.
Other comments? Oh, all right, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And Danny, it's unanimous. Are you recording it for us?
Yes, she is.
Okay, Laurie, thank you very much.
Danny's late. I don't know why you tell
Danny,
me.
wake up. Thank you very much. We move to the next item, which is a series of ordinances. No, correction,
Yes,
ordinances. Item number 1, which is at tab H, third reading of an ordinance authorizing the execution of a fee in lieu between Kershaw County and Higher GE Appliances. Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have for third reading tonight an ordinance that authorizes a fee in lieu between Kershaw County and Higher doing business as GE Appliances. This has previously been known as Project Sweeper.
Previously known as Project Sweeper, so now we expose it. With that, can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion, we approve,
Mr. Tucker, thank you. Second? Second from Mr. Gardner. Discussion, anybody? Okay, very good. It's gone through 3 readings. With that, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. We move to item number 2, which is a third reading of an ordinance authorizing execution delivery of a FELO agreement with WhaleChem. Mr. Carpenter, again, please introduce that.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, third reading tonight, an ordinance that previously council has voted on the previous 2 times. This was previously known as Project Wildcat.
Okay, Project Wildcat. Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Gardner, a second?
Second.
From Mr. Snodgrass, discussion. Now, does this have to do with the restructuring of WhaleChem, or was
No,
this?
so this is an additional investment.
In addition to that, thank you. Clarification for me, thank you very much. With that, no discussion. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's approved unanimously. Move to item number 3, second reading of an ordinance to amend the official zoning map, if we can get that up on the screen, Danny, for 13 acres, more or less. Mr. Carpenter, can you open that?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for second reading an ordinance to rezone 2 parcels of land of approximately 13 acres total from R15 to RD2. Previously, this was approved by the Planning Commission by a vote of 5-2.
5-2. All right, can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion, we approve.
Mr. Tucker, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Snodgrass. Any discussion? Yeah, David?
Thank you. I just want to add, I think this is a good happy medium of respecting our land use map, but also remaining flexible for, in this particular case, a family that wants to utilize a mobile home on their family land. And so thank all the hard work of the staff at the Planning and Zoning Office.
Any other discussion? Al Bozard?
Mr. Carpenter. Those zoning changes, tell us what those zoning changes, what they mean.
Okay, so let me pull it back up.
From R15 to R2.
Basically, it's moving from a 15,000 square foot to, which is roughly a third of an acre, to R.
Mike, come out and help us out here. Thanks, Al.
Yes, sir. It's actually decreasing the density because it makes larger minimum lots. So you have to have at least 1 acre for a minimum lot in the RD2, which they're asking to go to, particularly for putting a mobile home on the site, but they're actually going to inadvertently make them have larger lots, which is actually fairly prevalent in that area. So it actually meets the characteristics a little bit more than the smaller residential R15 zoning that's on it now.
Yeah, I heard him, but I ain't sure I understood what he said, that last part.
They're asking, the zoning they're asking for, the RD2, is actually, their minimum requirement is for larger lots. So they'll be required to have larger lot sizes than the R15 in which they sit in existing at this particular moment. So at this particular moment, what they're sitting in, they could subdivide that lot down to 15,000 square feet and have much smaller lots, which really isn't character of the neighborhood. The character of the surrounding area is really for larger lots.
Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful. Good question. Other questions, comments? All right, I propose we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And I see it's, well, Mr. Tucker, it's
yes,
unanimous.
I got it
Thank you
right.
very much, and thank you for introducing that. Item number 4 is at tab K, second reading an ordinance of the council to change the zoning map for 14 acres more or less from R15 to RD2. Mr. Carpenter, help us out here.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, also I slightly misspoke. The vote previously was 4-2, not 5-2. On this ordinance, you have in front of you for second reading an ordinance to take 2 parcels, again, approximately 14 acres in total, that are currently R15 and GD, which is general development, and merge them into an RD2 single lot. This has previously been approved by the Planning Commission on a 5-1 vote.
Thank you very much. Can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Snodgrass, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Tucker. A discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, David, go ahead.
This one is in my district, and just want to echo what Mr. Conley previously said about the other situation. Basically, it's a situation where the rezoning this it makes it more consistent with the characteristic of other residential dwellings that are around there. So I support this change.
Thank you very much. Other comments? In respect to your point there. With that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And again, it's unanimous, and we move to the next item, which is an ad valorem issue, item number 5. It's at tab L, and I think it's on the screen. A second reading of an ordinance relative to the Midlands Regional Rehab Hospital, which we just talked about in our opening session. Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight on second reading an ordinance that would be the execution delivery of a fee in lieu agreement between Kershaw County and the Midlands Regional Rehab Hospital, which previously you saw tonight recognized. They have already broken ground on this hospital and is going up as we speak.
Very good. Can we have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Tucker, that was really fast.
Second
Can we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Connell, that's his district. Comments, please. No comments? I'm delighted to see this at last. It took us years to get here and a lot of hard work by everybody currently in and also previously in the Economic Development Office. All right, with that, we can move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and we move on to third reading for that. We move to item number 6, first reading of an amended ordinance determining rules and order of business. Is at Annex M. I don't see it on the screen. If you can find that, we'll move on into the motion process. That's it? Okay. There. I don't have my glasses on. All right. Thank you very much.
No rules. That's it. No rules.
I can't believe I was a tanker shooting at 3,000 meters. With that, can we have a motion, Mr. Tucker? I think.
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion that we amend our ordinance for county council.
Very good. As included in Annex M. A second?
Second.
Was that you, Jamie?
It was
And
me.
we got a second from Mr. Jones. With that, we move to a discussion. Mr. Tucker.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, thank you. You have before you, well, you don't have before you. I have before
It's
me.
at Annex M.
Okay. Our rules, our ordinance that we adopted a few years back, and there were some changes that I was recommending to this council so we could be within our own guidelines, basically. If you go to your page 1, preparation of the agenda, you'll see that the agenda shall be published by 1 p.m. on Friday. That was one of the changes because we get Ms. Mary the information by Wednesday, and she has to try to get it out ASAP, and it doesn't always work, and it was in violation of what our rules were. So we still turn our information in by 1 p.m. on Wednesday, but she has to 1 p.m. on Friday to get it out to us and the public. As you go down, you'll see for special meetings, the word proposed matter stretched out in agenda, and then publish, not provide, publish at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. And then we struck through for meetings that propose agenda shall, we struck through all of that. I'm just going over the changes, so if there's any discussions, you guys can feel free. Section 2.5, order of business. The only thing in there, somehow in between tweaking this over the years, we left out public hearings. So we just want to put that in. And then if you skip down on the 2.5, Part B, adoption of the agenda, what was added was the order of business of the agenda may be varied if required by the chairman. And all that states if he has, say you have someone that may come up and they're on a time schedule where they're trying to make county council and city hall or school board, the chairman would have not to amend the agenda, but vary from the ordinance or the order that we have written out to carry out the agenda, some flexibility in there. And then the rules as public hearings and public presentations may be varied by vote, the county council. That's in there, but I want to revisit that, and I'll tell you why. If you want me to, I can go into it now. In our rules, if you look in the front of your y'all pages, but it's also on the handout of the agenda on the back of it. It states that we're supposed to have 15 minutes, 2 presentations. We're not following that. And this is no blowback or nothing on staff. You know, sometimes you get people that want to come up and speak, and, you know, it seems like they're all in the same meeting or the same month. We want to get that where we can have a little bit more consistency on that. And not tonight, but my proposal tonight stands as it is that it can be voted on by county council. But I talked to Mr. DeBose and need to put a little bit more information in there. Looking for public presentations to be a maximum of 20 minutes. And then that way we can kind of stagger these. And if we choose to go over, which we can, we must take a vote by council, not just a head nod. We have to take a vote. So we can be more consistent on what we're doing versus, you know, some people we let go over, some people we give them exactly the 15 minutes. Want to be more consistent on what we do with our public presentations, and we don't want to pile them up like they were tonight. So that's, and I'll bring all that back, but virtually that's what that sentence is saying, but I'll have more detail to it next meeting. The other one, go on section 3.2, the chairperson, the chairman. The chairperson presides at all regular and special meetings, and it says, and vary the order of business on the agenda as required, the chairman shall. That was added, and then skip down, there was a whole section added into that. The chairperson acts as parliamentarian and rules of parliamentarian and procedural issues while presiding at meetings, and rules on points of orders, and delineates points of orders as when a challenge is made to the ruling by the chair as to point of order or after an explanation is made, it is to the challenge of a ruling by the chair. And after the chair rules on the point of order made, then any appeal from a ruling by the chair is debatable, subsequently to which council votes on the appeal, and with the chair breaking a tie. And then it has motions to consider a matter already decided to be made at the next meeting of council
Amy, you've done a great, thank you,
Yes.
Sheriff, for recognizing me, pulling this together. And I'm very comfortable handling it all in one bulk.
One body.
Yeah, because you're giving us an explanation. We have an opportunity, to ask questions. And I think the changes you've made are well noted and will work.
Well,
Mr.
Mr. Jones, I
Tucker, go
thank
ahead.
you. I just want to say, this is ours. So dive in, give input, give your suggestions. If you don't see something can be enough, what we were trying to do when I was talking to the county administrator is not on hands where we can't govern.
Well, let me ask you this, since Chairman just recognized me and I'm hopefully still on the floor. What about the regulating the setting of the proposed budget? Go back over the issues dealing with that.
You saying you want to deal with this?
No, I don't want to deal with it. I just want you to tell us what it is.
I'm trying to think what you're asking.
Setting the proposed budget. The county administrator sets the proposed budget.
I think this is what you're asking me. I'm trying to make sure I'm clear on your question.
I know, I just want to see if we're on the same page.
I guess you're talking about when we have to come back and reopen the budget?
The agenda. When the agenda is being prepared, the county administrator prepares the proposed agenda.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's in the rules.
Yes, sir.
And you're not touching that.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
Okay, I got you. No, sir. No. We're not touching that. The only changes are what was.
I didn't see anything when I was reading it, but I just want to clarify.
Right. No. Not the way you still can put things on the agenda as a council member. It's still set by the county administrator and the clerk to council, and then they get it out. And there's something there's an issue or problem, they will contact us or the chairman will contact us.
Yeah. What I'm getting is a sense of this body that the rules of our house here are for us to decide. We've got 2 more readings of it. And my proposal is the same as Mr. Jones, is that we look at it as a body and not voted on it line by line. That would be arduous and mistaking. If there's no further discussion, maybe there is, we can move to a vote. Any further discussion?
One quick comment.
Yes, sir. Thank Mr. DeBose and especially Sammy for stepping up. We'll just get better by communicating with each other about how we interact. It just sets it forward without being so doggone hidebound. Any last comments, Mr. Tucker,
I
before
just
we
want
move
to
to a
say,
vote?
starting tonight, we still won't get this done till the first of the year.
You have plenty of time. All right, with that, let's move to a vote and recognizing this as a first reading. And let's jump on Mr. Tucker's suggestion to pile on and look at it if we want to amend it. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and we move to the next item, which is item number 7. And it is no attachment here. It's a first reading and title only of an ordinance, Walnut A. Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, first reading tonight in title only of the previously discussed Project Walnut A for the execution and delivery of a fee agreement between Kershaw County and the project.
Very good, thank you. Can we have a motion?
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. A second?
Second.
From Mr. Gardner. Any discussion? All right, very good. With that, we move to a vote. All those in favor, so signify. And it is unanimous. We move to item number 8. Also, no attachment. Likewise, a first reading in title only. Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, as with the previous one, this is a title only execution delivery of a fee agreement between Kershaw County and Project Walnut B.
All right, let's have a motion, please.
Make a motion for Project Walnut B.
Mr. Tucker, second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Bozard. Discussion. Seeing there is none, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And we move forward. Thank you, Economic Development and Mr. Carpenter. We move to new business, next item on the agenda. Item number 1, a Clean Community Commission appointment. It's at tab N. You can see highlighted there. I believe Mr. Connell, you may have a nomination.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we appoint Pam Delk to the Clean Community Commission.
And I believe the record is somewhere in the backup file. Very good. Can we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just say Ms. Delk has been a great part of the Elgin community. She's been very active in the Clean Community Commission in the past with the various cleanups that we have. Her application's been in the packet for the required number of times, and I'll ask for your support.
Thank you very much. Other comments? I will say that we had a very successful week out there with Wanda Swan, and this committee is active. And with their help, we have a grant that's now been passed to Mr. Carpenter to execute for litter control, and it's been very active on Facebook as well. I want to publicly thank Danny for working with Wanda and with the Sheriff's Office. Thank you, Sheriff Bone. I think you issued a lot of tickets as people speeded by. I saw one of them sped by me, and the sheriff had some people on him in no time at all. So this motion about the Clean Community Commission that Mr. Jones and Mr. Bozard brought before us is going to last and have really impact the climate of our county. And I thank Ben for bringing forward that nomination. With that, any further question?
Mr. Chairman,
yeah,
I
Mr.
just want to say that, the eyes are not just on us here in this county, but also statewide too, because there's a lot of people talking about what we're doing here in Kershaw County with the Clean Community Commission.
Absolutely. Very good. We'll move to a vote. All those in favor, so signify. I think I'm waiting on Ben. Jimmy's unanimous. And that's unanimous, and thank you. And someone please notify her, please. Second item under new business is Brazel Lane paving bids. It's at tab O, and on the screen, I look to Vic Carpenter to take us through this.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for your approval a bid for the grading, drainage, and paving of approximately 1,400 linear feet of an unpaved road and a 600 linear foot access road in Elgin, South Carolina. This Brazel Lane is the road leading to the Packlet-Milliken Palmetto Utilities wastewater plant. This was part of the process that began when they shut down their ribs and their lagoons and built their new wastewater treatment plant. They are paying for this out of their funds, and the county is managing, and it'll be a county road when it's finished.
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve, and we'll get into discussion?
A motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. A second?
Second that.
Thank you, Ben. Comments? Mr. Brown, yeah.
I yield.
Al, go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter, tell me again where the money's coming from?
It's coming from the industrial fee that Packlet-Milliken is paying to the county.
And where'd that money come from?
From Packlet-Milliken.
Tell me again why we're paving this road?
Because we agreed to pave the road as part of the process. They shut down their basins and built this new facility.
And this money is fee in lieu?
It's industrial fee, yes, sir. It's not a fee in lieu, but
They
it's industrial.
telling us what we gotta do with the money that they gonna give us, that we gotta pave a road?
No, sir. No, they didn't tell us what to do, but this was part of the discussions we had. When we talked with council about this earlier this year, part of the overall sewer plan, this is part of that we were discussing, was paving this road to the sewer plant.
And you was part of that agreement that
Yes, sir.
talks about when we was gonna pave this road?
Yes, sir.
That's all I have.
Thank you very good. Any further comments? Mr. Tucker.
I just want to clear up because I think I might have missed. This is a part of our agreement when we signed the agreement to get the fee in lieu. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're just, right, yeah, we're just following
We didn't
along.
give any break or fee, but we did agree to pave the road.
Right. Okay. I just want to make
Okay,
sure.
very good. Further comments? And the lowest bid is which one, please?
JF Contractors from Sumter for
Sumter.
$273, $276.
Very good. Okay, any further comments? With that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous and moves ahead to next item, which is the council briefings. And I think I start with you, Mr. Bozard. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I want to thank the Clean Commission one more time for the cleanup day they had last week. And I had one phone call that people said that they really enjoyed, really appreciated the fact that we were getting out and doing this. And I want to pass that on to the Clean Commission. Also, I appreciate the litter signs that were going up all over the county. They're handmade signs, but they're good. And I appreciate that. And I want to comment on Al Hollins. Al, I've known for a long time. He's a surveyor here. He was until he retired, and I think he's pretty much retired now. But that ramp down there does need work. But he was under the impression that belongs to us, and it does not belong to us. It belongs to the state. But I do agree with him that we need to put that ramp in place in our property over there. We need to fix that ramp and put it in place so we can launch boats. When the Branham owned that property, I launched many a boat out there and fished watery. But it's in need of repair right now. And I understand that we're going to launch the canoes or whatever they use in there off to the side. But I think that ramp needs to be made usable so we can use it. Because he brought up a very good point that that ramp that they're using now over there that belongs to the wildlife people, can't even think of what I'm saying. Anyway, to state it is very dangerous. And I've seen some boats go up under that ramp, and we need to do something about that, getting rid of it. I know we've sent some letters to the state, and the state comes back and says it was in the original contract when they put it in, but they took it out to do something different there. So. But anyway, I do agree that we need to look at fixing that ramp, Mr. Carpenter, and put it in. I got one more comment on our park. I think we need to make some changes in our scheduling for that thing. I think we need to clear that park down there of all the trees, brush, weeds, and everything else so we can see what the land looks like. We're talking about putting if there's a memorial, putting it up on top there, but we can't see what the land looks like. Mr. Carpenter, I think we need to go ahead and look at clearing that land and getting it fixed up the way we talked about. Thank you very much.
Mr. Connell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, two things. First, I'd ask that council just consider the car wash that recently sold on the opposite side of where the Wateree River Veterans Park is. That lot sold for, I think it was over $700,000, which is the nearest and most time-sensitive comp that you would have for the top portion of the river park. Gets the same traffic counts. As we move forward in figuring out what we're going to do with the top portion of that lot, I'd ask you to consider the commercial value and the benefit that there might be to having a restaurant up there or something else like that, so that people can come up, have restrooms and food and whatever else they might want to do in recreation. But I think it's a very valuable piece of property on the top portion, given the recent comps. The other thing I wanted to report, Mr. Chairman, is I recently attended a CLE, and it was on ethics. And portion of that presentation was about ethical codes or canons that apply to elected officials. I've been speaking with Mr. DuBose about any regulations that we have in the county or that apply under state law to this body, as Kershaw County Council. And I was surprised to learn that there's relatively little that actually applies unless a county actually opts in and creates their own code or ordinance to govern their behavior, say regarding lobbyists, other financial matters, self-dealing. And I plan on presenting that at some point in the future after conferring with Mr. Carpenter and Mr. DuBose further to see if we want to actually do that opt-in and self-police and make sure that our behavior lines up to the letter of the law. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jones.
Mr. Bencanel, on your last comment, no worries here with Jimmy Jones, I can assure you. Sheriff, all our firefighters, I just want to say thank you again for everything that you do and public safety. Also, our vets, our veterans. Mr. Foreman, it's good seeing you. Glad you're here. And all the rest of you out there. Appreciate y'all being here. The folks that were here tonight, they called me. I had talked with them earlier, and I'm glad they came in and voiced their opinion about motorized boats. And, maybe that's something that this council can think about down the road. I don't know. But they're going to certainly, I think, Vic, I know you've already started turning the wheels in your head thinking about it. And I think it's something that's worthwhile looking at. Tonight, we had our meeting, started at 5:30. We had 160-something pages in our agenda. That's a lot to cram into one night. I just want to make sure that, I just really hope that down the road, this council will really look at maybe going back to 2 meetings a month. Because I just think business runs smoother that way. We're not cramming so much into one meeting. And it's almost like you get disconnected a little bit between one month to the next. I mean, I'm dealing with citizens every day, 20 calls, whatever, 15 calls. I mean, I'm getting those every day on requests for services. But I just really feel that this council needs to meet twice a month. And I know we're going to be addressing that in December, I believe. Isn't that right, Mr. Tucker?
Yes, sir.
In December. Mr. Chairman, members of council, that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Snodgrass.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of council, I want to take some time to highlight some folks in our community that are doing some really, really neat things. A couple months ago, we were presented with a community health improvement plan by Katherine Johnson and Live Well, Kershaw County. And recently, they were recognized by the Live Healthy South Carolina, which is an initiative between Alliance for Healthier South Carolina and Department of Health and Environment Control. And so Live Well received a community coalition and community innovation award for the health improvement plan. So just want to say kudos to those folks at Live Well. Also, she was here earlier and she commented on the Vision 2030 plan, but Susan Wazowski was also given an award. She received the Dr. Rick Foster Leadership Award, and this was given to her because she's a champion for health and health equity within our local and regional and state levels, and she just exemplifies all of the things that organization stands for. And anyone who knows her understands that that's well deserved, and for her work in our community. So I just want to highlight just some Kershaw County citizens that are doing some really, really cool things. And I realize that we're involved with things and people have different opinions about what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. But we have to realize we are governing for the whole county. And so just because you may think a health improvement plan or healthier this may not be something that should be important, we got to remember we are governing for all 68,000 people. And so these things matter to us. And so we're grateful for that. I know 911 Dispatch received some awards recently. I guess Vic probably will mention that, so I don't want to steal that thunder. But our 911 Dispatch received some awards, and so kudos to them because those are, they said it tonight, those are the true first responders, really. I mean, those are the ones over the phone that are, you think about it, listening to some really tragic calls, and they're on the other end of a phone, and their job is to keep them calm until Gerald and his staff or the firemen or police can get there. So thankful for them. Thankful for planning staff, Joey and also Michael. Had several meetings with them in the last 5 weeks, which is, it's a good thing because I'm meeting with them because people are wanting to open up businesses, particularly in East Camden. And so we had some meetings. And so, Michael, thank you so much for setting those up and getting the players at the table and figuring out the best way to do that. I do have a District 5 Pride Award that I want to recognize. Will Falconberry, who's not a Kershaw County resident, he's actually a Lancaster resident, but he is investing money in Kershaw County. We have a new car wash. For some reason, 2019 is the year of the car wash in Kershaw County. Amy, I don't know if you planned that with the chamber or not, but it's the year of the car wash. And so we have our own car wash in East Camden. I want to make you guys aware of that. And it is the kind that will give you the experience and the kind of the self-worth of getting out and washing it yourself. And so I want to thank Will for opening that up. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. But he took a property that, as you guys know, had been had been blighted for many years and put a lot of money into it. It's well lighted. You'll feel safe if you want to go by there and vacuum your cars and put air and whatever. So District 5 Pride Award goes to him and for him investing in that. So that's just good news. Good news. And based on the meetings I have with Michael, I may be having some other District 5 Pride Awards. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Okay,
Those are the
Mr.
ones.
Tucker. Thank you, Mr. Snodgrass. Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just dovetail on what Mr. Snodgrass was saying. That gentleman also owns the one by Little Midget as well. That's downtown. So for the ones that are not familiar who he is. I want to thank all of my colleagues and American Legion, Post 17, and all others for the support on the naming of the Veterans Park. I want to say that I had an opportunity about a week or so ago to go to NATO conference, and that was a good conference. It's the National Association Development Organization. First one I've attended, and a lot of good information that I'll be getting with Vic and staff with. They took some, I went on what they call a brownfield trip, which was an all-day trip, and you know, they just took some incredible properties and opportunities, and these don't have to be abandoned gas stations is what I learned out there when I went out there, and how they made spaces like Walmart partner with them and end up creating hundreds of jobs. But they also in Nevada got a 1% sales tax that went back to that local tribe or community, because you know there's still tribes in Nevada, and it built a medical center, which helped, you know, keep people healthy, keep people working, keep people living. They just had some interesting ways of doing some things, and not saying that we can implement all that they did, but it's definitely worth looking into and seeing how other people around the world manage their communities. So I'll be sharing that with you as soon as I can get with the powers to be and bring you back something. I want to say happy Thanksgiving, because this is our last meeting for this month. So all of you have safe holidays and safe travels. And I'll be attending the SCARC conference myself. And Ms. Burns, are you going this year?
Which one?
SCARC down at DeKalb?
Negative. I've got to go to Detroit.
Okay. Well, so I'll be attending that. I'll bring you back a report when we get back to that. That'll be the week before Thanksgiving. And I appreciate all that you do. That concludes my report.
Mr. Gardner.
I think if you listen to some of the things that were said when you talk about our county and what a great place it is to live, and we talk about Dr. Tommy Joseph, and we talk to so many more like him here. We talk about our fire, our EMS, our law enforcement working together, and I think we're doing such a better job collaborating with each other on all the things that we do in this county that make it such a special place to live. The input from people that we listen, you know, like our American Legion post, I think naming that park the Veterans Park is an outstanding idea wherever it came from, and I think it came from Post 17. But just those things all together, if you listen tonight, I think that's what makes Kershaw County such a special place to live. So, you know, I'm proud to be a citizen here. Thank you.
Well, amen to that, Mr. Gardner. You see the sheriff here, you see Captain Jones, you see Bob Levangie, you see Gerald Blanchard, and we'll see what they did when they got together without having to ask permission or get guidance from this esteemed body. They did the right thing without any help from up here, and they came up with a better solution, and I'm going to keep the patch, Sheriff.
That's right.
Thank you very much, and this kind of team play makes us a better county, because we're better when we work together. Committee 100, the Chamber of Commerce, Vic, Lauren and Stephen, Stuart Kidd jumping in when there was a hole. This is just terrific. I would like to mention a couple of housekeeping matters. Survey 2030 is out there. I say it again. Take the time to take it. I guarantee I'll read every comment, and so will most of the men up here, and we'll get a report in January. The full count census is fully underway. I believe there's a meeting in this chamber on the 4 o'clock and on the 21st. Mr. Tucker, you are our lead hitter on that, and we'll have a bunch of people in here. I ask every organization that has anything to do with the census to have at least one person here to be represented, because that census leads to federal and state money apportioned by population. I need not say any more on that issue. But with respect to that, Vic, I think it's time for us to get an update on housing permits and growth. I get a daily phone call from people in the West Watery section. I know you do, Jimmy, and Ben, crowding, traffic over there. If we can just get an update on housing permits. The last one's about 8 months old, if we can just get a brief update here. I met with the governor twice this past month, once on Rev War 250. As you know, we got about $5 million going to us, that the city of Camden, this county council, and the CCTC are participating in a world beater of a Revolutionary War visitor center. And the governor's fully behind that, and so are a number of national organizations that are giving us money to expand the size of the battlefield. What does that mean? It means tourism. It also means community and state pride in our role in the Revolutionary War. The second meeting I had with him, I'm due to report to you, with the Japanese ambassador and consul on economic development for this county, and a report will follow in due time as that's developed. Lastly, each of you have in front of you the annual evaluation appraisal form for the county administrator. I'll look to Miss Mary to collect that from you by the end of the year. I think that would be good, the 31st of December, so we can roll that into a review in our first meeting in the new year. And with that, I have nothing further. Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, a few things. First of all, Mr. Jones, I appreciate the kind words. I must, however, emphatically say that all the projects tonight began 1 to 3 years ago, and we're fortunate to be able to bring them to the county in the form they are today. And I appreciate the support of this county, of the council, and of the citizens behind me and in this community at large to make sure that we've got a great economic development program. I would remind council members that starting tomorrow and the next day, we will be interviewing members of the community to get their input on what our new economic development director, what the scope of that person should be. And so I remind you to, if you haven't signed up yet, please let me know and I'll get you a position on the calendar so you can do so. Also, as David was saying, we've got a lot to be proud of with our 911, as you already know. It's very easy to talk about good things, and this is one of those. Just a few weeks ago, out of the 5 awards that are presented each year to the entire state, 3 of them were presented to Kershaw County. Tricia Crawford, Bubba Henson, and Daisy Falconberry each received honors at the annual convention. These honors are determined not by peers, not by a committee, but rather by out-of-state independent people who reviewed the process and the applications and made these decisions. So that makes it even more important that, more impressive that these men and women who represent us receive these awards. Trish Crawford was named the Director of the Year for the entire state.
Wow.
Bobby Henson was the Trainer of the Year for the entire state. And Daisy Falconberry received the Palmetto Award for 24 years of dedication to the 911 Communications Center. Amazing people we have there, Mr. Chairman, members of council. That's my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. DeBose.
Mr. Chairman and members of council, I have nothing.
Thank you very much. It took you a long time to say it.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, second, please.
Second.
From Mr. Gardner. Any discussion? Happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and be safe. That weather out there is nasty. Let's all vote. And Mr. Gardner, very good. It's unanimous, and we are adjourned.